Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of In My Opinion. My name is John.
My name is Lester.
I guess.
Today we are back with another episode. We are back, and today we'll be discussing a pretty controversial topic. But before we get into it, as usual, follow us on Twitch if you haven't yet, twitch.tv/overthinkSG. Follow us on Telegram, t.me/overthinkSG. Also on Instagram, IMO.pod. I do some Instagram posts every week. So it'd be cool if you guys share it and like it, give it a like, do whatever you want to do with it. And you also get 1 minute highlights over there. So, with that, now that has gone out of the way, why don't we start with the episode proper? I think before we start the episode, we do want to set the tone right for this episode. So, this episode, we're going to be talking about the differentiated measures for the vaccinated people versus the non-vaccinated people. And we're talking about, with reference to the most notably, the vaccinated people can dine in groups of 5, and for non-vaccinated people can only dine in groups of 2 in hawker centers. That's that's what most people are talking a little bit about. And we want to keep that argument, the discussion within that perimeter versus just anti-vax and vaccination, because even though they are very related, we are not, as much as we know a little bit about vaccination, we are not experts in it. So if you want to have an anti-vax versus vaccination topic, we want to have a doctor here who can answer the questions confidently and actually give you guys proper information versus us trying to do with whatever we have, bits and pieces from online or whatever.
Absolutely.
And we do recognize the severity.
We don't want to be basically the opposite of the Karens.
Yeah.
Who just preach about things they saw on social media, for example. Yeah, we're not about that.
Yeah, and we also recognize that we kind of have a little bit of influence, albeit a small one. So we're trying not to spread false news or make people unnecessarily afraid or anything along those lines.
Up, right.
So we rather have a doctor talk about these medical issues. But with regards to social issues and I guess the differentiated measures, that's something that I guess even though
we all can have an opinion,
we have an opinion on it, even though we are I guess not politicians but we have somewhat of an opinion about it. So John,
yes,
were you vaccinated recently? You were vaccinated recently last week, right?
Yes, I was just vaccinated almost a week ago.
Okay, so you're not fully vaccinated. You haven't dined out yet, right?
I'm fully jabbed. I'm not fully evolved.
You haven't Pokemon third level yet.
I'm Charmeleon.
For me, I have been jabbed already, so and it has been 2 weeks since I'm fully vaccinated. Yesterday, I went out with a group of friends for my first ever dine out in a while. So
wow,
that was the first time that we went out. We just
missed that feeling.
Yeah, we just had and there are not a lot of people. Actually, you think they'll be very crowded, but the place we went was it's not very crowded. It was still quite chill. Everyone was still
people are still worried.
Yeah, so we went out. I went out for the first time went out to eat for the first time last week. Yesterday. So this was, just a very clear example of fully vaccinated versus not vaccinated or not yet fully vaccinated people. And in fact, we put the Telegram chat. If you're not in our Telegram chat, do join us there. Today it was buzzing, it was booming. A lot of people were talking because I think it's something that people are very passionate about. So I gave a poll and said that we wanted to know, what do you think about the special measures for vaccinated individuals? So 24% of the people fully supported it. Who voted I fully support it. 4% says I don't support it at all. So there's still a good amount of people who are straight up just don't agree with the measure. And but I would say the large majority, which is 63%, is a bit unfortunate for those who can't get vaccinated, but necessary still. John, do you participate in the poll yet?
I have not participated in the poll, but the thing about it is that I agree with option 3.
You agree with option 3, right? And I think that's where I am also. That's what I voted. It's a bit unfortunate. But
okay, then we're in agreement. Then thank you so much for watching this episode. No,
I think you can talk a little bit more about the different scenarios or the different reasons why, the pros and cons. So
yes, absolutely.
In the Overthink chat, quite a lot of people talk about a lot of things, but I think a good place to start would be for the people who can't get vaccinated because of legitimate medical reasons. Allergies.
Yeah, let's say cancer patients.
Yeah. Or allergies, for example. So, for example, like me, I've had past history of anaphylactic shock before. So, I've gone to the hospital because I took ibuprofen, I legit couldn't breathe. So it's a very, very bad severe reaction. So
Okay.
they actually for a period of time, the government didn't allow me to take. And that was during the first time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that was during the time where like people started to say like, okay, students will have to go get vaccinated. Then the government was like, by the way, in the future, we might have people who vaccinated can go overseas or people who vaccinated can dine out, but unvaccinated people maybe will have to take a step back or more restricted measures. And then I remember thinking to myself, wow, damn sian. So I can understand because I have been in that position where like I cannot take the vaccine. It's not even like I don't want it. I tried to go. I don't even get the choice to go. Like I surrender myself. If something bad shit happened to me, I will take responsibility for it. I didn't even have that choice. They should have said no, you can't take it because of your allergic reaction. So I can kind of understand in that sense lah. Like there is a little bit of that sian. It also feels like you are being discriminated against, especially because it's not your fault. Like it's not your fault that you have a allergic reaction. But in that case, and I think it makes it worse for like I guess people in hospitals. Like some of them have allergic reaction, cannot take the vaccination. And then I think recently they came out with like a measure that if you are not vaccinated in your working in hospitals, the government will subsidize your PCR test. But you still have to pay a little bit. And those people who choose not to be vaccinated, they have to pay for their PCR test. If I'm not wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the measure so far.
Yeah.
And I can understand why that might be very off-putting for people who are unvaccinated. But do you have any views with regards to that, John?
Okay, you see, I have like I'm quite passionate about vaccinations.
Yeah.
Okay, because I have a understanding of how vaccination works that fits the way I view it. But I can also totally see the pains of people who view that it is like discriminatory or whatever. I can totally understand. But like my point of view is very simple. When we want to talk about who calls the shots, pun intended, because it's a shot, right? Who calls the shots,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That would be the leadership in any, be it a country or that kind of thing, right? And most of the time, you will expect countries to do utilitarian, like kind of policies. They'll do what makes sense and do what works, right? What gets the results. They're not interested in anything else but the results.
Yes.
Because in the greater scheme of a populace, results are more important.
It's utilitarian lah. They try to get the greater good.
Yeah. So I can totally see why they have to pick a policy that fits the majority as much as possible first. Because, right, a one-size-fits-all answer has not been discovered yet.
For now, okay, I've been thinking about an alternative. Like, I think it's a bit difficult to talk about this without thinking of a possible alternative that you can possibly do. But honestly speaking, I spent like the whole afternoon trying to think of an alternative or a better
I also have
alternative.
thought about an alternative.
I cannot think of anything that's really that great, to be honest. Like this looks like the best possible way.
Yeah.
Because there are other like things that you have to consider when it comes to like the loosening up of restrictions. First of all, very obviously is the food vendors, right? Like straight away, they are the people who will get affected the most because if you can go and dine in, of course you get more people who will be going down.
More business. Can keep afloat.
Yeah, and then the secondary people will be the people who are in shopping malls. If you don't go to shopping malls, you won't have foot traffic for people to buy stuff. So now we have a bit more foot traffic that will help the business as well. So business-wise, it makes sense to open it up a little bit. I think on another end will be the COVID fatigue. And I think that's like, in the chat, there's a GP that was in our chat and he was talking about how that is a real thing. Like, I think it's very difficult to ask people to keep. Can you imagine a circuit breaker was 2 years, 1 year long, let's say? I think people will get like, hey, fuck off lah. Like, hey, I'm not staying in a 1 year long circuit breaker.
I mean, honestly, if you ask me, right?
Yeah.
I feel pretty fatigued.
Yeah, it's very sian already. Like, even with all the measures that has been loosening up recently, it's still very sian. So, like, the more sian people are, the more likely they are to like do stupid shit like go to KTVs or like break the rules because they're like, hey, screw it lah, guys. Let's just do this.
It becomes an every man for himself kind of mindset.
Yeah, so I think that's something that you want to avoid as well. And by loosening up a little bit, especially for the people who are a bit safer, I guess, will help with that COVID fatigue. And the way to loosen up, there are two ways. One of them is either half loosen up, which is for the vaccinated people, or loosen up for everyone, right? And loosening up for everyone, I think the government thinks for now is a little bit too premature. I think because we haven't hit the public, like the goal.
The vaccination limit.
Yeah, we haven't hit the vaccination goal yet. But for the to opening up the vaccination people, I think some people were saying that like vaccinated people still can get infected. Vaccinated people still can transmit. Transmissibility is something that the scientists are still researching a bit more on. It's not yet exactly very, very proven or anything. So it's still a work in progress very much. But I think that even if the transmissibility is still equal, let's say it's equal, right? Vaccination will allow you to not feel as severe a symptom if you do get COVID, even if you get infected. And also, I think there are research that also shown that like infection rates are down and severe infection rates are down if you get the vaccine as well. So I think Singapore is trying to move away from the pure numbers, at least from what I know. We're trying to go more towards the severe cases instead. And this is quite in line with what they're trying to go for. They're trying to go for no severe cases. They're trying to go for no hospitalizations and no ICU, that kind, So that's what they're trying to go for. And this really kind of
and that's a logical utilitarian approach, you see.
Yeah. Because like you can't keep the numbers down forever. There was a period of time we had 0 for a while, right? Like 3 or 4 days. And as we all know, good things will come to an end. And it did come to an end. So, but we can't lock down immediately, especially within Singapore with such a small economy to begin with already. So I think the businesses side, very difficult, especially for the hawkers. You go to Next and you see, like, I know there are like some stores that close down, or just walk around, there got some stores that like just a bit unfortunate they had to close down because of COVID or whatever reason. So I think having the business side of things still in the government has to consider that side of things as well. It's not just the convenience of people.
Yeah, I think like if on this point, right, because if we really want to discuss like government's considerations, a government is run by humans, right, and run by humans for humans, right, and as a result, they also have to prioritize things on their lists. So it's not like they cannot have plans to have Singapore a certain way, but after much discussion, maybe their plans to have Singapore a certain way have to pass through certain checkpoints.
Yeah, I think they have a few milestones they're trying to hit.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that because we're in a democratic system, which means like everyone has to unanimously more or less agree on a decision that is being made.
Okay, yes.
So in order to find a solution that everyone can agree to, right, it must equally also address everyone's discomforts.
As much as possible. It's not. I don't think that policy
everyone
ever
exists. Everyone at the policymaker levels.
Okay. Yeah.
And that would mean that like it will most certainly cover some bases that we may not identify. And also because there will definitely be phases to how things are done.
Yes, I agree. I think the phases thing is also another good point that I saw in so I read the reason why I even thought of this topic to begin with, because I read a Rise Media article and I think the article is fantastic. I'll link it down in the links below. But it's basically they asked a bioethicist, I don't know what's the term, but I think it's an ethical person specializes in the biosphere about how ethical is this differentiated measures for vaccinated people. And the person, I think one of them was, they were saying that for now, right, this is a necessary step, but it's for now. He said if this is a forever thing, right, you can see why this might be a concern. But eventually he said they think that eventually the government's goal will be to open up for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
That's when you hit a certain
This is where the conspiracy theories need to take a step back. Yeah. No government wants to keep you out of the streets. Let's face it, okay? You know why? Because keeping you out of the streets makes them no money.
That's true. Economy-wise, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes them no money. Okay?
Yeah.
And we hate to say it, but around the world, money makes the world go round.
Yeah.
So there's no grand scheme for your conspiracy theories that governments are trying to control the populace. No. Okay, with that out of the way, okay, I totally agree with this bioethicist that this is just a step into a full release. because everyone does want to return to some sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
Tourism industry, for example, is such a big deal, right? No one wants to lose out on that piece of pie,
Yes. Yes.
right? One less person they let travel, right, is one less wallet they can dip in their fingers into.
And like Singapore, if anything, you know that like economic growth is one of our main pillars of growth as well, and something that we look
Exactly.
to a lot.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why like you must understand that this vaccine policy is done because of two main reasons. One is a phase of getting there to a full release. Secondly, right, is because the situation is so new and developing. It's only 2 years old after our long history as a country, a long history as the world. It's so new and developing that we have no guidelines on what things should be yet.
Which
It's
is the
still
tough
developing.
part. Yeah, which is the tough part because like
Yeah.
everything you come up with, right, is for lack of a better word, like really straight out like coming out of nowhere, like you're pulling out of thin air.
Yeah.
It's not thin air because they have research and they have considerations and stuff like that, but it's considerations that you never had to think of before because it's a
Correct.
brand new situation. So they're just trying to do
Yeah.
their best.
And the thing about the pandemic is that, like, you see, there are two types of pandemics that I think, I don't know if a researcher coined this or someone created this term. There are two types of pandemic, okay?
Yeah.
One is a fast pandemic and one is a slow pandemic.
Yeah. Okay. In what
A fast
difference?
pandemic, right,
Yeah.
is a pandemic that is extremely deadly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people die very quickly. Populace get essentially culled by a disease,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then what happens is whoever survives are completely immune, but very quickly you lose a large number of humans. Okay?
Okay.
A slow pandemic, right, is a pandemic that continues for a longer time,
Yeah.
but medical service are never overwhelmed, or resources are never restricted from people. Difficult choices or who lives, who dies are never has to be made, right? Both achieve the state of a populace that survives the pandemic.
Yes.
Okay, because right now that's the base requirement for any government, right?
Yeah.
What we are all striving for is a slow pandemic, because the moment we transit into a fast pandemic, we lose a lot of lives. And if there's one thing we hold sacred, it's human lives.
Yes.
So it is a result of slow pandemic. A lot of slow measures must be done.
Which
Can
is
you imagine
slowly
if-
open up. lah.
Correct. It could be slowly open up, slowly vaccinate, slowly contact trace, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But if you do quickly,
Yeah.
right? No need wear mask, for example. That's a symptom of a fast pandemic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Millions of people get infected.
There'll be a significant
Overwhelm-
more. Yeah. It's very overwhelming. as
Overwhelm
well.
the healthcare system.
Yeah.
50% chance you step in the hospital, you are dead. This will maybe in a few months create a world where no COVID dangers exist in Singapore anymore, because those that are infected are dead.
Which is
And those
a
that
very
survive,
morbid
survive.
thought to think about.
Which is a very morbid thought, but the populace survives because that's a very apocalyptic end goal that is possible with a fast pandemic. And that's why you see, right, last year, 2020, the earlier half of the year was so crucial. The whole world was scrambling to stop themselves from becoming a fast pandemic.
I agree. I think Daryl also pointed out
Yeah.
something very, 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 I mean, he said, he kind of agreed with us. He said, I think this is a temporary phase. The main idea is to prevent our hospital wards / ICUs from becoming overloaded. Contrary to what people might believe, our hospitals and ICUs are already operating at near full capacity pre-COVID. Unvaccinated people are more likely to develop severe diseases if they get infected. Therefore, there's a need for differentiated measures up now until our vaccination numbers are
Yeah.
up. And I agree with
I
that.
totally agree.
And I think now that we talked a little bit more about like why we agree with the measures, I think you can start to think a little bit more about why people might be a little bit hesitant or not really, really happy about it. I think some people might think of it as a way, I think some people might view this as a way that the government is trying to coerce them to getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
And in a way I can kind of understand where they're coming from.
I
But
feel
what do
that
you
the
think?
government is not coercion, right, has a very insidious and negative implication to it.
Okay.
I think what the government is trying to do is to apply invisible pressure to get people to do what they want, which is very normal. All governments do that. It can come in the form of propaganda. It can come in the form of incentives. It can come in the form of Like, for example, what some invisible pressure that sometimes the Singapore government, people claim the Singapore government like to do? Oh, before election year, they like to give out some handouts.
Oh
People
yeah.
claim that that's an invisible incentive pressure. Something like this, right, so happens to look like an invisible pressure to get vaccinated. We will never know, right?
Yeah, as in that comes with
We will
intention
never
also,
know.
because we don't know their intentions. I mean, I'm assuming it's good, and
But
I'm sure
people
it's
can
good.
feel.
But yeah.
People can feel,
Yeah.
right? We can't confirm, but people can feel.
Yes.
And that's where it's important, you see. It's a kind of like advisory to the populace that, like, hey, if you do this, you get benefits. It's a very simple one. Although this is why we even have to discuss today, because it can get discriminatory, especially for people who on legitimate grounds can't.
Yeah, and I also think that like coercion is like a very tough word, especially when you come, especially coming from a government that has been advocating that, let's say, if you are not vaccinated and you choose not to be vaccinated, they don't force you to be. So they're like, you can be not vaccinated, go ahead. And in fact, they have also put out saying that like employers cannot fire you or not hire you just because you don't want to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
That's a rule. Like, straight up, you cannot do that. So, like, I can understand why people say like, oh, this is like an invisible pressure to get vaccinated. But at the same time, like, I feel like it's kind of like when government asks you to eat healthy, then they make the brown rice a bit cheaper than the white rice. It's the
National
same
Step
thing.
Challenge give you NTUC voucher.
It's kind of the same thing. Like, I think it's not that. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's coercion. I think it's more of encouraging people to get vaccinated. And I think they are still recognizing that people have a choice. Ultimately, there are people who are worried about vaccines being unproven, worried about the long-term effects of the vaccine. As much as I don't necessarily relate to those concerns, I recognize that there are concerns nonetheless, and everyone at the end of the day just wants to do what's best for them, for their children, for their families.
So like on that vein of thought, you see, governments like we mentioned earlier, take a utilitarian approach.
Yeah.
Right. So like, what is the fastest way that a government can achieve its goals, right? Which is prosperity, and everything, right? In their leadership minds, they will have to make the best decision they can think of, and that would be, unfortunately, at this stage, sort of segregation kind of policy.
Yeah.
No choice. Because this is a necessary evil to reach the end state that they want, where everybody gets to dance around in the parks, mask off, and sing Kumbaya.
Which I hope
that is still a long ways away.
Yeah, it's a long day.
But this is a start. But we cannot like discount the fact that there will be people who feel upset about it, lah. And
Confirm.
that's why also subtly suspicions are more or less, I would say, justified that government is indeed trying to encourage you to get vaccinated because they incentivize you getting vaccinated.
I think
there is the science is sound. You see, the science is sound as far
Definitely.
as the agencies are concerned.
Yeah.
The science is sound enough that they can encourage you without forcing you.
Yes, and I think Denzel also pointed out quite a cool thought. Maybe he says that I think society has to see the measures as a benefit for vaccination rather than punishment for not being vaccinated. I think that's another point that someone was bringing up as well. He was saying that like, is dining in? I think someone in the chat said like, is dining in really like a necessity? Do you really need to dine in? And we have proven that we don't necessarily need to. Nice to have, definitely. It feels good to, as what John said, like have mukata in a place that's not our house. But it's not a necessity. We don't have to live.
Yeah.
We don't have to have it to live. And I think that's a good point. And I think
and I just want to bring up another point that Pro Finite Group mentioned, right? They mentioned that it's unfortunate, but from a public health perspective, there is no difference between people who are unvaccinated by choice and people who are unvaccinated on medical reasons. You see, this is where why there even is a reason to talk, right? It's because people think that was like a lapse. Right, or that was either done, or that was maybe done on purpose. These are the two things that pop into people's head. But I'm here to bet my bottom dollar that that was not the case. It's not a lapse. It's just that at this step, there is no better path.
I don't think they didn't think about it. I'm truly think that they did think about it. And I think it comes with, that's why, like, for example, like the medical doctor, the medical people who are not vaccinated, they have to pay for PCR tests. If you are allergic, you get subsidized by the government.
Yeah.
So I think they do think about it. I think they actually have thought about it a little bit. It's just that for now, like pure policy wise, there's nothing really much they can do because you're still unvaccinated. You still have the same risk as people who do not vaccinate by choice. And that's unfortunate, but it's just how it is. And eventually,
that's the thing.
Yeah, eventually you'll reach a vaccination number where anyone who is unvaccinated will be able to go out safely from herd immunity, etc. So that's the goal of the government. I don't think they've been shy about it either.
Correct. And if we think about a way about, like, for example, how the company might be moving in phases instead, right? Then suddenly you'll be able to see the bigger picture. Yeah. That right now, right, you are that particular group is not being quote unquote targeted. It's more or less because this is a necessary step to take the next bigger step. You think about Olympics, right? You take triple jump, right? You need to speed up, then you need to jump, then leap.
Yeah. So
there's no one's gonna be able to bound off as far as the 3-step jump.
Yeah, I think there's a process to this. And I know a lot of people are very uncomfortable with what I call the trust me bro. Like, it's like the government really say like, hey, trust me bro. I know a lot of people are very uncomfortable with it, and I understand why, because they want a sense of control over their lives. I think that's the reason why so many people are so upset about the vaccination measures also, especially those people who are not vaccinated, because it seems like the government is taking away control from their lives. They're taking away their liberties and their rights. And
that's not always the case.
I can understand why
policies they think there might be policies that appear that way.
Yeah.
But there is a bigger picture here. You cannot just see that without the bigger context.
I can understand why they are concerned about that. As much as once again, I don't relate. I can see where they're coming from. And I think it's a good sign that the government is still saying, like, if you don't get vaccinated, you cannot get fired for this. And that's a huge thing the government has come out to say, like, you don't get vaccinated. It's okay. In fact, we'll protect your rights. Just that for now, like, because we don't have the vaccination numbers now up properly, and we still need our business to flourish or rather at least not die. This is something that a good stopgap measure. And I think someone else was also saying that, like, in the Telegram chat, that this might even serve as a way for those people who are on the fence. Like, they are like, I know there are friends who are just scared of the jab. The only reason why they haven't gone for vaccination is because they're scared. Like, it's not even scared of the side effects or anything. They're just scared of the needle. So I think those people who are like really on the fence, who want to get vaccinated, but just like, because there's some fears here and there.
This might be the nudge.
This might be the nudge for them. It might tilt some people over. I don't think they're trying to convince people who are like really, really uncomfortable. Like some people who are really uncomfortable with the possible long-term side effects. I think Denzel really pointed out, it's important that we don't discount them. I agree. And I think the government hasn't been discounting them either. I think it's important to look at it and say like, okay, that's a valid concern. You are okay we are fine with you not getting vaccinated, but here are the consequences, or here are the possible problems that might face if the whole society don't get vaccinated. And are you okay with that? And
this is a situation. See, this is the situation of you can't have your cake and eat it. Okay?
Yeah.
You think about it, right? You see, why people are eager to jump on it as like the government being shady, right? It's because like it feels like a discriminatory policy. But you must understand that we exist in a society that if we release, right, the restrictions, we are releasing people back to a pre-COVID environment. So this is not an environment that has been prepared for pandemics. It's an environment that we have known up to 2019.
Yes.
Fair?
Yes.
So things like distance from each other, things like ventilation, things like all that kind of thing was never an issue up until December 2019.
Yeah, there's no infrastructure there for everyone.
So because the weighing of the decision making is to whether to release everyone back to a world back to a pre-COVID world or pre-COVID infrastructure that we can't possibly knock down and rebuild.
Yeah.
Right? Then the logical answer that the governments have very unfortunately will have to make will be one that has to draw a line. It's like, I give you an example. Let's say you talk about strict parenting, strict Asian parenting, which actually in this case I feel it's a relatable example. It's not the best.
Relatable.
But it gets results.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you fail your exam, they take away your
Computer games.
iPad.
Sure, iPad.
For example.
Yeah, iPad, yeah, sure.
Right? Take away your iPad. And then the next round, you improve.
Yeah.
Right? But as strict Asian parentings would dictate, they don't give you your iPad back. They may give you for 3 days and then take back.
Okay, sure.
Why? Because they want to encourage you and positively reinforce your next behavior. And it is a necessary step. And most of the time, this is very simply understood even within our childhood that it works.
Yeah.
Incentivizing good behavior.
And I mean, this is a good incentive.
Because you can't go back to the pre-advancement era. There will be no growth in that sense.
And also, it's very dangerous also. I don't think they can, like, with good conscience, just throw everyone out to the Wild West and go like, have fun, boys and girls, just do your thing. I don't think that's something that they will do in good conscience or can do in good conscience. And I think, eventually, of course, you want everyone to be able to go outside regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not. But we have to hit a certain number. And I think for now, this is a good measure. It's kind of like what I would say is if you want to play the Back 4 Blood pre-release, you can go and sign up for the Blizzard account. For Steam or Alienware's account or whatever. You can do that, but if you don't want to, because you don't surrender your private information, they don't force you to, just buy the thing when it comes out. So it just depends on I guess for now, if you really want to do it now, there's a good incentive. But if you don't want to, and that's not something you're very interested in, I think eventually we can look forward to the measures extending out to you. But once again, it will be when the vaccination numbers hit a certain amount, because if not, it's not safe.
Correct, absolutely. And I think that's key to understand in the discussion here, that this is an, for the lack of a better word, a necessary evil. It's not a policy that is meant to be discriminatory or a policy that will work is meant to be forever. I don't think so. I trust that it is not going to be a forever thing. It is a step to the next step.
I hope so too. And I think the government will talk a little bit more about it as well. But I am sure, like, just from a pure like numbers or economy point of view, they want everyone to go out. It makes
no sense.
They want everyone to go out, guys. They want everyone to go as soon as possible. ASAP, just send them out. But if they send out too early, then people get sick. The economy will go back down also. So it's about timing of these sort of things. And I think they have assessed that it's not the right time. Generally, Singapore government tends to err on the side of caution a little bit more than, like, I would say the UK or the US of the world. But it's I stand by it and I still agree with it. Fully.
Yeah, and okay, before we properly wrap up this topic.
Yes.
Alistair.
What's up?
You said you had a suggestion on what could be a better way to do this. Share. And then after that, I'll share mine.
I had a suggestion. I don't have a suggestion, actually.
You don't have?
Okay, my only other possible that I can think of, right? Only other thing, right, is everyone dine in too, regardless of vaccination or not. That's
my solution more elegant.
What's your mine's more blunt force.
Mine very elegant, but I think not bad. Okay. Pandemics are dictated by 3 things.
Yes.
Okay? Distance, density, and duration.
Okay. Yes.
3 Ds.
Yes.
Okay? So for vaccinated individuals, okay?
Yes.
You get to dine inside the aircon.
But all the oh my god, that's really quite
unvaccinated one.
You want outside?
You sit outside, every table 2 meters apart from each other.
Okay.
Think about it, this works.
Then what about those people with no outdoors? Then they cannot.
No. As in most establishments, either government find a location where you can extend 1 or 2 tables outdoors. Yeah. So that is a better in between than just cannot dine, or like hawker center. That's why you see hawker center, right? Anyone can eat, right?
It's 2 people only.
Why? Very simple. Because, right, it's open air. Open air means high ventilation.
And don't say that's what the government is doing now, John. But I think John is also doing it for restaurants.
What I'm saying is, like, for example, restaurants, they use the floor space outside. So they have an alfresco section along with their inside section. So the alfresco section is for the unvaccinated.
Okay.
And I mean, if
understand.
you want to be a bit more extreme, they can go for 5 unvaccinated. But
Yeah.
the tables are damn far apart.
Yeah, I can see why that might be a good solution as well. I'm sure they
Limited
have thought
seating.
about it. I'm sure they have thought about
Yeah.
it, but I think maybe it comes with like
In a post-pandemic utopia,
yeah
that could possibly be
another
infrastructure in the smart city of the future.
maybe
When pandemics come and go, for example, let's say in a post-pandemic utopia, when pandemics come and go and humans are 100% prepared and unfazed by however deadly a disease, vaccinated sit in aircon, unvaccinated sit outside LL. Fair?
I think eventually you want to get to a point where no matter whether you're vaccinated or not, you'll be able to still go outside and dine in aircon, but that requires a lot of people who are vaccinated. And I think Pro-Finite group also says the government already said they aim to remove this differentiation in the future. I think that's a good point.
See, Pro-Finite Group also says Lawrence Wong, my
Yeah.
man,
My
said
main man.
during press conference that they can consider alfresco dining for unvaccinated. See? You see, if two assholes on the internet can think about it, right?
They
And you
confirm
and your
thought about it.
Facebook group can copy, right? The government have probably thought about it.
They probably got thought of it already. Because if two idiots on the internet, as you always say, can think about it,
Yeah.
you can trust the government that they'll think about it.
So think about it. With the alfresco dining, we will do away with any ventilation concerns, and with the high amount of moving air, you dilute, right?
Yeah.
Delta variant or not, once these 3 Ds are settled,
Yeah.
pandemic have very low chance of spreading.
I think that's sounds like another good milestone to hit. I think
Yes.
eventually, once again, the best case scenario is just everyone can just go on to normal. But that requires
Yeah,
a
so
lot
we
of
want
other
to
things,
reach that point. In order to reach that point, these are the critical checkpoints.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you see, now we do this. I tell you, let's throw our minds back
yeah.
to a lovely time called phase 3.
Yes.
And then after that, we failed that. So we take a step back. Right?
Yeah.
And then after that, we slightly open up, nearly 1 week to opening up to phase 3 heightened alert. And then we failed that, and we take a step back.
Phase 2.
See, all these things are just steps to a newer future.
Yeah, and if it passes, like for example, from CB to phase 1, from phase 1 to phase 2, if it passes, you'll
Yeah.
continue. But if it fails, you'll go back. I think it's quite
Yeah.
simple.
And this is the case for the dining policies as well.
Yeah. I think
You know?
that's
these are like dining privileges.
yeah.
Because as much as we want to argue about whether it's discriminatory between the vaccinated or unvaccinated or what, COVID-19 doesn't care. COVID-19 is just waiting to strike.
Yeah, I think that's the good way to wrap it up as well. I think that's essentially our thoughts about the issue. Of course, we didn't want to get too much into the whether or not people who are unvaccinated have a good reason to. I believe that no matter what, you have a choice. Even if I don't agree with that decision, you have a choice to make that decision. But if it's something that you guys want to hear more about, we'll invite a doctor on, and we will consider doing the episode.
Yeah.
But for now, I think this is what we have in mind. And
These are my thoughts. I mean, as with all episodes, we do encourage people to have an intellectual discussion with us. It's fine that you disagree. We always come in these conversations ready to have our minds changed. And we sincerely hope that you do too, so that we can always have a fruitful discussion. I mean, if we disagree at the end of the day, even after our discussion, that's fine. We go home with our own opinions.
I agree. And I mean, even for our Telegram chat, if you're not there, you can definitely go there. Today, a lot of people who are talking, and I think quite a number of people who disagree with each other. There are people who are trying to bring in alternate points of view, people who are like trying to challenge other people's point of view as well. But at the end of the day, we're all nice people. We all just trying to do our best in life. And I think
we're all just trying not to die.
we're all just trying not to die, guys. And I think if everyone just comes in, if you disagree with us, disagree nicely. And I think we are very open to hearing it out as well. So, with that, anything you want to talk about, John? Any last final words?
Nope, that's about it. We can end off with more plugs. Please follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitch. We have cute donation emotes and donation animations,
And
photo
emotes.
animations, sub animations, and
Emotes and stuff.
We'll
Yes.
see you guys next week, I guess.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this week's episode. In my opinion, stay safe. Don't get COVID, and hopefully
Yeah.
you guys we'll see you guys next week on Twitch. We'll stream on
Stay
Thursdays.
safe and get vaccinated. I highly encourage you to do so.
Yeah.
If you can't, encourage the people around you to.
Please
Because
get
you're going to
vaccinated.
need that when we move into a world without the pandemic. Yeah.
Yep. And see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Oi.